I think FXB's scholarship over the years has really been seminal. We started with the vision of the importance of linking health and human rights, which now when we think about it is obvious, but at the time wasn't so obvious. And so a lot of the scholarship that the FXB Centre has produced has been directed to showing the links between fundamental principles of justice and health or other well-being determinants. And so over the years, we've worked on a range of different subject matters, particular populations, particular issues. But the overarching theme, I think, is always that our research is geared towards improving practice, our research is geared towards improving social justice, and our research is geared towards focusing on issues that are under-attended to, whether it's under-attended to populations or under-attended to problems, or the combination of the two. So, for example, we've worked a lot on issues to do with discrimination. And of course, discrimination is one of the core issues that the human rights regime tries to address. Discrimination on various bases, most obviously in this country on the basis of race, but also discrimination on the basis of gender or sexuality or age or disability or nationality or immigration status. So discrimination is a very widespread social practice which undermines the fundamental principles of equality, obviously. But even though we see it often in our societies, in order to change behavior, in order to change government policy, in order to change social practice, we need evidence. We need to prove that what our intuition is borne out by the facts on the ground. And I think that's where we come in. And so over the years, we've done a range of different research projects using both quantitative and qualitative methods. An important issue is to what extent do our efforts really lead to changes in policy, given that this is one of our goals. And of course, we could do more. I don't want to be arrogant or aggrandizing. We can and we should, and hopefully we will do more. But I think we have made some important contributions, not only to scholarship and to the knowledge base, but also to policy. And let me give you two examples, one from my own work and one from the work of my colleague, Dr. Bassett, who's the director of our center. So from my work, as I mentioned, I've worked a lot on issues to do with migration, including the migration of children. And early on, it was obvious to some of us working in this relatively new field that all immigration and refugee policy was centered on adults, and that children weren't even an afterthought. They were kind of like part of the bucket. A whole family would get asylum, and so the children would get asylum. A whole family would migrate and exercise rights to family reunification. The children would exercise those rights. But increasingly, we noticed, amongst many, that there were children traveling alone for a whole range of reasons. And that these children were not getting the attention they needed. They were not getting anything which was child-specific. They were not getting rights that children are entitled to have their best interests considered. They were not getting access to procedures which were child-friendly. They were not being separated from unrelated adults when they were being held in government spaces, exposing them, of course, to risks. So we started working on a whole range of issues to do with child-specific persecution, the persecution of children that led them to come and seek protection, and then child-specific policies. And I would say that over the span of my research life, which is now several decades, we have seen dramatic changes. The other example is from our colleague Mary Bassett's work on structural racism during COVID. And I think that she and other colleagues at the center identified how the legacy and the continuing impact of racial discrimination and racism in this country impacted Black populations during the pandemic disproportionately. That this was nothing to do with health issues about the population. It's not because they had more comorbidities or their conduct was less healthy. It was because the system put them in a position of being less able to secure the services they needed, that they were forced to work in crowded situations, to take, public transport, et cetera, et cetera. So the whole set of social determinants which impacted their ability to protect themselves from COVID. And I think that work, which was very widely publicized, was impactful. People kind of sat up and realized. As I reflect on my maybe 2 decades nearly at the FXB Center, maybe 15 years, I'm not sure. I think I've been really fortunate to land in a setting where 2 things I care about so much are in evidence. One is this unrelenting commitment to social justice. And, not all of us agree on everything. We have different perspectives, different priorities, different backgrounds. We are a very mixed group of people. But we all share this sense that our work is really about social change, about correcting inequity, racism, discrimination, a whole range of social ills which abound. So I'm really lucky to have found that. And I'm also lucky to have found a place which is open-minded, which has changed over time. So, we think of health in a very expansive way. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a health person. I'm a human rights lawyer. So how do I have a very comfortable and welcoming home at FXB? Because the FXB Center really has embraced the importance of interdisciplinary scholarship. The FXB Center has really put its money where its mouth is, I think, in terms of understanding health as well-being. So being irregular or being considered illegal is very bad for your health, just like having TB. It's a poison. It's something that needs to be cured, needs to be addressed. And we see that, but not everybody does. And so, of course, I think I'll end on this note that at this moment, when we're recording this interview, we are facing unprecedented challenges. I have a kind of background, like so many other people, coming from a family that's faced hardship over the years. All 4 of my grandparents were Holocaust affected. And I hear that kind of 1930s discourse in the society I live in now, and it's very alarming. So I'm very privileged to work in a place where I feel I can make a small contribution against that trend, where I can contribute to training students who are going to, I know, do whatever they can to preserve what's valuable and good about this society that we've built together, and to really generate hope and idealism and a commitment to doing the right thing for the future.